guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Angela, and I'm gonna do a part 2 to week 1 of Amethyst Ascension Past Lives Club. So this is the 4 cards I pulled from different decks to talk about the archetype of the past life that I had. And I wrote down a lot of stuff, so I'm really just going to show you guys the differences here. I went back over and read everything and wrote down the significant parts of it. Everything ties in together, and that was crazy. And we are just literally on week 1. And because my camera has limited time frame, I can't do multiple, like an hour-long video on my camera here. But I pulled apart, this is all for the archetype of that past life. I pulled Maritimer, and Explorer, Teacher, which it says, I'm actually more, I think, the shadow attribute. We'll get into why. Manipulating or abusing students, teaching negative traits and demonstrative skills. The light attribute is the ability to communicate knowledge, experience, skill, or wisdom. It could be both, but in a bad way. We'll see. We'll show you. Then Masquerade, hiding your true self, projection. I didn't even catch that until I went through the other cards as I was reading them after I got off the camera with you guys. And I'm like, oh. And then Authority Figure makes total freaking sense. And I'm like, what? So all of these, in the Maritime Explorer, I looked it up in the book. It could be somebody that was on the sea that traveled a lot, but it could also just be someone that traveled a lot in there. And if I was a guru or idol, or even a follower of a guru or idol, I could have been somebody that traveled all over speaking their word, and you know what I mean? So that all, to me, tied in and made sense. So for the archetype, I wrote, I just wrote what was down here, and then the Authority Figure here. But where we get into it here is in the book from the Uncover Your Past Life Oracle. I'm not even going to pull open the book because I just wrote all the pertinent things down. And because I have limited time, we're just going to go through all the cards real quick. So for the first card, the identity was Guru or Idol. And I pulled an extra card for them. And it was Obsessive Love. And I'm like, what? And then I wrote from the book, I wrote, I or someone I knew was a guru or idol or celebrity, someone others looked up to, could be an authority figure, who knows. Obsessive love, I or someone I was with was in a obsessed with, basically was an obsessed person with someone. And they even use the word fanatic in here, and that could be a religious connotation. I was obsessed. I loved this person as a guru or idol. Now, I could have been the guru or idol, but I feel like with all the other cards, I don't think I was. I was the follower. It says, obsessed with them due to being, so basically I had this obsessive love because my own personal things due to maybe abuse or being or cheated on or feeling abandoned. Says you might try to ignore, and it says in this life I might try to ignore relationships just because I got hurt so many times in the past life. But this obsessive love was because I was cheated on, or because I was abandoned in some way, or abused in some way. I had this obsession with love. And I'm like, interesting. So, and that could all be due to a religious thing too, which we'll get into. So for the time frame, that's out. The time frame. What did I put? Is Middle Bronze Age. If I can find it. Yeah, Middle Bronze Age. And I'm doing a part 2 here because I just think I was rushed. I rushed you guys through the last one. And as I was reading the last part of this spread here, I was like, what? I said I should have read that on camera, but it was crazy. So the time frame was Middle Bronze Age and Blizzard. And it says Middle Bronze Age between 2000 and 1600 BC, during a time of the alphabetic writing, the rise of Babylonia and Assyrian civilizations. And actually, before when I read it, I think I read it wrong. But I think it was the fall of those. But it was at a time where Babylonia was rising up, Assyrian civilizations were rising up, and the fall of Sumner as a great power was shifting and falling. So all of these things, and I can totally see myself in somewhere in that sect of a religious guru or following a guru or something like that, because there was 2 major powerhouses rising to power and one falling. So there's this shift there in religious views, and I find that very interesting that I didn't really catch that before. And then blizzard, you may have surrounded yourself with cold people. Not necessarily that I was in a blizzard, but I may have surrounded myself with cold people. And it could have been because I was that, if I was the guru or idol, then I surrounded myself with people that are colder and more not easy to get along with. So then I look like a bright spot in everyone's day. Does that make sense? It makes sense to me. So that was that one. And then we come to location. Location is Northern Europe. Northern Europe. And if there was, in fact, blizzard or cold weather a lot, it makes sense for Northern Europe. And then I got teacher in there again. So we have teacher again on top of the archetype. And the maritimer could also be that they were a teacher on board a ship, which is interesting. Or like teaching them something, or a trade. Trading, maritimer to me is a trade also. So that all fit together as well. So when I wrote on the Northern Europe location, Iceland, Finland, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, or somewhere off that coast, currently underwater. So that made great sense to me. And then teacher is either a professor, tutor, school teacher, or instructor of a specialized skill, trade, or subject. And again, the trade or subject came up, and I'm like, oh, that makes sense for if I was like the captain of a ship. Makes sense. So that was that one. So then we have faith. What did I say for faith? Oh, yeah, that's the weird one. This is where we start. Oh, that's Guru Idol. Okay, where am I at? This is the one we start getting into crazy town. I think. Faith. No, where is it? I'm looking for it. Did I put the wrong one there? No. Okay, where'd you go? I don't know where it went. Oh, that's it right there, I think. I turned it over. Nope. I don't know. It's one of these cards, but it's Gnostic or dualistic religion. Gnostic or dualistic, and then religious was the added card to that. I'll look here. Nope. What is happening? Nope. I don't know where it went. Why does it keep saying primal or aboriginal there? I don't have anything like that. Sacred. Okay, none of these are it, so that's weird. I don't know where that one went. But it was Gnostic or dualistic. And the word for that down here, this is where I was like, what? Gnostic or dualistic. In a past life, I may have been Gnostic, Cathar, Luciferian, and I wrote them all down. It's weird. Manichaean, Zoroastrianism, or dualistic. In my spiritual beliefs, that there were two gods, one good, one evil. And then I found it interesting. Here we got religious, but the main archetype on this is brainwashing. And it says brainwashing, religious. I may have succumbed to a religion like brainwashing or propaganda, like a spiritual leader, cult leader. And see, this almost feels like it is saying, yes, you were this cult leader. Or a group sought to condition the public to accept or normalize an ideology or agenda, which I found very fascinating, such as persecution or discernment against heretics or religious minorities. During certain points in history, propaganda or written materials effectively induced witch phobia or fanaticism. And I'm like, what? So I could have started the witch hunt in Northern Europe. I mean, it all fits. It all fits, the location, possibly the time frame. I'm just like, my mind is blown. And then it says, for the archetype, could be current. It says on there that it could also be affecting this current life in that, or time frame, in that I can include being swept up by a charismatic spiritual leader or ideology. And I'm like, so that could have carried over, and I see it as kind of carrying over because I have my own mind and my own thought process. And so when other people are telling me, no, it needs to be this way, I'm like, but why? Why does it need to be this way? And I investigate. So that kind of carried over in that maybe I was this spiritual fanatic leader or follower to a specific leader. And now I'm like, I have to question everything because of that. So I just found that very fascinating. Very fascinating. So we're getting rid of that. Maybe I'll find the other one here in a minute. Oh, yeah, there. No, that was Guru led. This is Northern Europe. Okay, that's trash. Not trash, but. So here we have love and promiscuous. Promiscuous and fasting and deprivation. Okay, so we have. I know where that's at. Oh, maybe I don't. Gosh, I just messed them all up. Okay, so here's promiscuous for love. Can't read it. And then fasting and deprivation. And I found this interesting also. Because for under promiscuous, it says, I had sex a lot. I may have had many partners, which would have led to suffering from STDs, love, romance, or even sex addiction. And then I said, see also identity, guru, idol, obsessive love. So those two connected there with obsessive love, but I still feel like it could be, like I said previously, the wife of or the partner of a spiritual leader, guru, idol, whatever, could be so fanaticized in their thinking that they're doing wrongdoing in the name of this person because they love them so much, because they're obsessed with loving them. And I just found that fascinating. And then we have the fasting and deprivation. Says I may have voluntarily went without food due to either religious fasting or a diet. And then I said, and then it said at archetype page 61. So I'm going to read you what it says on their archetype on page 61 in the book, because I was just like floored, because all of this so far has talked about religion, propaganda, and teacher. And all of it points to, now that I'm into it with you guys on here, and I'm slowly going through it again, it does point to me being a spiritual leader or guru or idol of some sort. But I was skewed. Maybe I was a scammer. Who knows? Okay, so page 61. No, I'm on 91. So page 61. It's under diet and fasting and deprivation right there. And it says the archetype, you may have been very disciplined or strict. You may be very self-disciplined or strict with yourself. Alternatively, you may feel the need to withdraw from socializing with others now and then, which I do feel, but I thought that was just because I was an empath and I feel everybody's crap. Maybe there's more to it than that. Perhaps you feel drained rather than nourished by your relationships. I do. I have, not my husband, but all my female girlfriends I've had, at some point I feel completely drained by them, which is why I probably don't have a lot of friends. I used to think it was like the, what do you call it? The broken bird syndrome. I would collect them. They were broken. I would fix them and then they would leave me. But maybe that's not the case. Maybe, I withdraw because I know this is not a good relationship for me. And I'm drained by those relationships and I just don't want to face it because I don't want to be alone. Because I have abandonment issues, which I don't know if we already did that in this video or not, but I just did that with the obsessed love was the feeling of abandoned or cheated on. And so that ties in again. It makes total sense. If so, isolating yourself from time to time might be a way for you to recharge your energy or can help you free yourself from any drama or negativity you've taken on. And I'm going to tell you, as an empath, you do take on a lot of negative energy. You can't be open without taking on both, good and bad. And yesterday I was sitting outside. My husband made a homemade fire pit. And the first time in years I've sat by a fire and just sat and didn't think about anything. I didn't have my phone. I just sat in silence, and I've not done that in so long, and it was so nourishing to me. And ever since then, my back has hurt less because I strained my back on Tuesday, and it's hurt every day so bad until yesterday. Today it's hurting again, but not nearly as bad. So I find that very fascinating that it tells me in this life, because of these issues, I need to be alone once in a while. Interesting. And my dog wants out again. So that was that. So, moving on to trauma. Witness or bystander. Trauma, where's trauma? That's not it. That's the scientist. Okay, witness or bystander. No. No. I'm going to just read it because... So, witness or bystander. And then we have gladiator. Here. For that. So, for the witness or bystander, it says, you may have trauma due to seeing something such as an execution, abuse, violence or injury to a loved one, or physical or psychological or other. And then the gladiator says train to fight, use weapons, provide public entertainment. Some volunteered, but other gladiators, most of them were slaves, condemned prisoners, or prisoners of war. And I'm like, what? And then female gladiators were known as Amazonians. And I'm like, that's crazy. And I'll show you that here in a minute, why that's crazy. Anyway, moving on, because we're going to run out of time again. Okay, the next one was death. How did I die? War. And ritual priest. This says ritual sacrifice, ritual priest. So war, you may have died in battle, during a duel, or while fighting someone, such as if you were a gladiator. And I'm like, that's when I read that, my mouth just hit the floor. And I'm like, seriously? That's crazy. I was just saying how I was a gladiator. And I very well feel like I may have been a gladiator of someone that was a prisoner of war. Ritual priest shocked me because it says I may have participated in ceremonies in which adults or children were sacrificed to appease a god. Now, we already know I'm either some kind of religious fanatic or leader, and I'm performing sacrifices. And it says that I may have even performed them, if not humans, then animals. So I either murdered people or I murdered animals. One of the two. Not a good thing. But I find it interesting here before, the witness or bystander trauma is me witnessing, and that to me means I may not have actually done the deed. I may have been present, for these ceremonies that were murdering people. And I'm like, that's insane. So that all tied in together. So the lesson, which thankfully is the last one, because I was like, what? So the lesson is truth and discernment right here. And then we got scientist. And I'm like, that has nothing to do with anything else. Or does it? So if you read the book, Truth and Discernment, it says, may have been involved being open to seeing the truth and being able to use discernment. I may have felt challenged to become wiser to others' attempts to deceive or gaslight me. Or maybe I needed to learn to see through social, religious, or political propaganda or brainwashing. So we have brainwashing again, we have propaganda again, and we have religious again. And then it says, see, faith, brainwashing, religion. For the faith, it all had all that in there. And I'm like, my brain just kind of exploded at that moment. I'm like, what? Then scientist, it says, I may have excelled in science, maybe a researcher, physicist, biologist, chemist, archaeologist, geologist, or an expert in another type of science, including astrology, cosmology, or astronomy. And I'm like, what? The archetype for the scientist says, I may be analytical, brain over heart. And if you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you know, I'm always saying that I always need to connect head and heart, connecting that. I have a hard time connecting those two things. And this is the stem of that. And I'm like, it just blew my mind. And then it says, I love to engage in problem solving or coming up with evidence to prove my theories, the theories I support. And that's totally me. I'm like, even with past lives, I'll post a couple videos before that on here that I did a past life regression once, and I was never one for past lives. And now I'm like a total believer, especially when, how can I draw random cards and they all connect to this one person? Obviously that I was. And it just blew my mind. And I just want to go over all these again and read to you what it said in the book. All of that I read in the book. That comes with this deck. And my mind was blown because it all connects. I was either some kind of religious leader, cult leader, or religious leader, guru, idol, whatever you want to call it, or I was a follower of that. And now I'm starting to lean more toward the actual leader, because there's just so many things here that connect that. And I just want to share this with you guys as a second video to kind of slow down and go over everything I read. Just like when I sat here and read it, and my mind is still blown, like looking over all this. I'm like, this is crazy. I cannot wait to dive into week 2, because it goes into these specific topics: the faith, love, identity, time frame, lesson, death, location, trauma, even deeper, and asks certain questions of those. So, and that's my dog who wants out for the 50th time today. So I'm going to let y'all go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, don't hesitate to comment below. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you want to see more, please subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification button so you're alerted to any future videos. And y'all have a good afternoon.